Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of Black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of Black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Hey, this is Nicole calling from Hamilton, and I needed to let everyone know that I really proudly support Vish and Creative Control. I have for many years, I will for many more, as long as he keeps delivering these amazing interview podcasts. When you hear one of Vish's interviews, you think he's known this guest for years, they're good friends, but the truth is he approaches every interview, whether it's sort of up-and-coming indie artists or established icons or like famous, intimidating comedians with a really deep, genuine curiosity, as though he's never met this person, and the same really warm candor, as though he's known them forever. I think it really lends to a great chat, no matter who he's talking to, and for that reason, I think you should throw Vish, $1 a month? He's got jokes. The jokes make it worth it. Support Creative Control on Patreon.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today. I'm Vish's wife, and remember, when you name a dog Janet or Timothy, you are dragging humanity down just a little bit.
So I always saw Rollie on the computer. He was always on the computer.
Rollie Pemberton is a gifted, prolific, and award-winning producer, poet, rapper, writer, broadcaster, and best-selling author, currently based in Hamilton, Ontario. Originally and proudly from Edmonton, Alberta, Pemberton is best known for making music as Cadence Weapon, and his 2021 release, Parallel World, won the Polaris Music Prize, which designates the best album of the year, as chosen by Canadian music critics. His sixth album ups his game yet again. It's called ROLLERCOASTER. It's out via Monarch Music on April 19th, 2024, and it prompted Rollie to return to this show for a good talk about things like Hamilton joyriding and being a proud citizen. The time he introduced me to the visual artist Raymond Biesinger outside of a Sadies show in Edmonton, life as a new dad, and why I personally think he might want to enjoy every moment of that experience. Why ROLLERCOASTER is a revolutionary meditation on modern technology and how we interact with it. Celebrating his late uncle and musical influence, Brett Miles, breaking down bot farms that juice music and podcast streaming stats, working on a new book, touring again, other future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One Network with the support of listeners just like you, who follow and subscribe to this listener-supported and donor-driven podcast. Spread the word about it. Leave nice reviews and ratings on your podcast platform. And make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, which is the primary and most reliable way for a podcaster like me to make a living. All amounts are welcome, and you can change them anytime. They're monthly, they're flexible. But if you or someone you know might want to make a larger donation, maybe they're a wealthy, you or someone you know is like a wealthy patron of the arts and can afford to do a large monthly donation, that would be great. You can learn more at the Patreon. Just click on the link in the show notes there. With additional support from Blackbird Music, a wonderful record store with bricks and mortar locations in Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta, and a great website, blackbird.ca, where you can order records into those stores, or you can have them shipped right to your house. Say you want a copy of ROLLERCOASTER by Cadence Weapon, go to blackbird.ca and see if they can't get it for you. I bet they can. Plus in-kind support from independent businesses like Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 858 of Creative Control, featuring the lovely and talented Cadence Weapon, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hey, Rollie, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm well. It's nice to see you again. It's lovely to have you back on the show. Where in the world are you today?
So I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, where I live.
Nice. Nice. How are things going in Hamilton?
I love the Hammer, man. Like, I find it to be a very peaceful place, especially when compared to Toronto. The interesting thing about Hamilton is it's, in a lot of ways, it's chill because there's just like less people. But, you know, one time we were coming home and there was a car parked in our parking space in the alley and it was running and it was just a stolen car.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it had like all this McDonald's garbage in it and clothes. And I guess some people just swiped a car on a joyride and dumped it at my house. Yeah.
And they left it running?
Yes. Because it was one of those push to start.
Oh,
so they couldn't turn it off and use it again, right? So they were like, okay, let's leave it.
Wow. So that's not something you've had in Edmonton or Toronto.
No
experience.
No. That's a Hamilton only experience.
Well, we're laughing about it. Poor people had their cars stolen. Now, what'd you do? You had to call the police, I'm guessing.
Yeah. They contacted the person whose car it was, and they lived down the street from me. And so they got their car back though, so okay. It was all good. But the guy, he said something really funny. He was like asking the police officer, "Do you think this was targeted?" And she's like, "Why would you think it's targeted?" It's like, "Well, I recently got a new battery in my car, so I think somebody was intentionally trying to ruin my new battery."
Like the salesperson at the shop where he got the battery was like, I didn't like that guy. He sucked. I got his address. I'm going to go over there and drain the battery. That's really what he thought? Yeah,
it's a conspiracy.
That's funny that's where our brain goes. It must be personal. It can't just be a random act. Was this a young person or an older person?
No, he was older. Yeah.
That's even weirder. Yeah. I could see a younger person being like, this must be my friend Mitch pranking me or something, you know? But,
but it's the conspiratorial thinking. It's not that strange here, I think. Like, there's definitely the vibes are you'll meet a lot of people who look very scary, but they're actually so nice. They're like the nicest people ever. And I feel like it sounds
like you're describing punk rockers.
Well,
can look pretty menacing, you know, with their
well, they still have punk rock here. Yeah. Like they have like people with like leather jackets and mohawks and stuff, like subculture. You're able to be really into a thing here still, and it's fine.
Yeah. For those listening around the world, Hamilton, Ontario is like a hotbed for OG punk rock in Canada. There's a lot of great punk that comes from Hamilton and Hamilton area. So yeah, I like that place. I'm glad you're still there. I saw on your itinerary that I think you're doing like a couple of shows, showcases and things, I think, beforehand. But isn't your album release actually the first show in Hamilton?
Yes, Toronto? It is. Yeah. The album release is in Hamilton on April 19th at Bridgeworks. Yeah.
So that seems conscious. You're a home. I like Rollie that you're a loyalist for Edmonton. You love your hometown, but wherever you live, you try to make it as special a place as possible. When you were in Montreal, you were like, Montreal all the way. Toronto all the way. Not you would be critical, socio-political stuff was going on and you'd speak out. But I love that you're a hometown team player. Hamilton now, you're Hamilton all the way. Am I putting words in your mouth? Is this true?
No, it's true. Yeah. I think I really enjoy embracing my environment. And I get a lot from my environment, and I absorb ideas from the cities that I live in. And I like to also give back to the cities that I'm into and really share what I really love about them with the rest of the world. And it's just like this impulse that I have.
No, it's nice. I think being a part of a community is clearly important to you personally.
Oh, for sure. Hamilton's really good for that. Everyone I've met is an artist, visual artists, like painters, and I hang out with Jeremy Greenspan every now and then. It's a vibe out here in Hamilton.
Jeremy's a great guy and has been on the show a couple times. If my listeners might be familiar with his group Junior Boys. And it's a lovely arts community there. And Hamilton, like a lot of cities in Canada, have a bit of a chip on their shoulder about Toronto. Like all across the country, people are mad at Toronto for thinking it's the center of the universe. That's not exactly unjustified, by the way. Toronto does seem to think it's the center of the universe. However, Hamilton has a particular distinction because if I think on it, it's probably the next largest city to Toronto in Ontario, like the closest one, and does have this tension. There's a rivalry, and there's been a lot of back and forth, people moving to and from Hamilton and Toronto. So there's something there. A little. Do you have a Toronto rivalry? Do you feel that?
I feel it. I mean, I felt it more when I lived in Edmonton, because whenever I would visit Toronto for the first few times playing shows, people would be like, "Oh, you're from Edmonton? Oh, where's that?" Or they'd be like, "Oh, sorry to hear that." So it's this really condescending way of thinking, like if you're in Toronto, you're the center of the earth, right? And having lived there, there's lots of great people there. There's lots of great things. But I, at the end of my time living there, didn't feel really stress-free living there. I found it really hectic, and it felt overly competitive, and it felt just kind of, people seemed really miserable. And I mean, that's obviously connected to the politics of a place, connected to, the financial element of living somewhere. Like, that was a big thing moving to Hamilton, is being able to, I wanted to start a family, I wanted to get into that adult kind of stuff, and it's just really not manageable to do that in Toronto, at least for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing well and you're happy in Hamilton, and I think congratulations are in order. The last time we really spoke, I think you were in Edmonton. It was for the launch of your book, Bedroom Rapper. I think I've seen you subsequent to that, actually, now that I think on it. Did I see you after that?
I think I saw you outside of a show in Edmonton.
Sadies.
The Sadies show, and I was hanging out with Raymond Biesinger,
who I owe an email to. He wants to be on this show, and I think about him every day. And now that I have some free time on my hands, because I don't have a day job at the moment, I am rounding up I've missed some connections here. Raymond seemed like a nice guy. He sent me some stuff. I'm Rollie. You know me. You know that I feel bad about myself sometimes. I feel endlessly bad about this Raymond situation. I don't know if you brought him up on purpose to make me feel bad. I am telling you, I'm going to contact him, and he's going to be on the show. I guarantee it. I feel badly. But we were. I actually got you and Raymond into that Sadie show. It was sold out.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was sold out. I just happened to be in town. I didn't even know that the show was happening, and it was already sold out. And you pulled a few strings and managed to get me and Raymond into the show. So on the one hand, Raymond, I made it up to him already. Yeah,
but
you guys are straight. It's all good.
I'll send him a note. He is on my mind constantly because he's an artist. Raymond's a visual artist and an author, right?
Yeah, and also an iconic Edmonton musician from way back. Like, one of his bands was one of the first bands I ever saw play in Edmonton when I was just first on the scene, like early 2000s. He was in the Famines.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed his work.
All right, listen, again, Raymond will be on the show, no doubt. But anyway, all I was going to get to there was a happy thought. Congratulations, you've gotten married, I think, since maybe I saw you, and you talked about having a family. Is that happening?
No, I have a baby. Yeah, we had a son. Yeah.
Congratulations. How, if I may, this isn't a census. How old is your child?
He's about 4.5 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Okay, so you have kids, so you probably... I wonder if you remember this, though. We're currently starting sleep training.
Yes.
And it's really like one of the hardest experiences of our lives. It feels like it's just so crazy. The parenting, shout out to all the parents listening to this. Shout out to anybody who has gone through this experience, because I was really overconfident. just from touring lifestyle. It's like, yeah, man, I could stay up late, no problem. Like I'm always doing that. It's no problem. But the difference is, it never ends, right? No. Like it's like the tour doesn't stop. Like there's another date every single day, and you're gonna be up at 3:45 a.m. and it's totally unpredictable. That's the crazy thing about parenting is you think you have a thing figured out, and then he evolves and manages to evade your understanding.
Yeah, it's a tough call to deal with the sleep training stuff. As I recall, it's a good question you ask. Do you remember? You said, "I wonder if you even remember." And there are things I have totally blocked out of my memory. I mean, my wife will say something, I'm like, "That happened? I don't remember." Or I'll say something, she's like, "That was such a blur." You're absolutely correct. The lack of sleep and the amount of stuff happening, the evolution in real time, like quickly, it's too much. It's too much to retain everything and remember everything. And the sleep training, are you doing the thing where you have to let the boy cry himself out a little bit?
We're doing kind of a softer version of that, where we check in on him periodically.
Yeah, it's hard to let your child cry it out for any length of time. So I appreciate where you're coming from. I mean, for what it's worth, you see me here. I have 2 of these things. One is 12, one is 9. I'm still standing. You'll make it through.
It's good to see. It's good to see you survived.
I love them. I love them so much, and they're both very funny and smart, and we're really getting along really well, and it's great. I love it. So
I love my son too, man. He's amazing. He's a vibe. Like we do. We're doing tummy time, playing and stuff, and I make up songs every day.
Yes.
And I record them because I'm like, some of these are actually sick. Like I have one that's to the theme of Spider-Man, but it's Daddy Man.
Oh, nice. That's
right?
good. That's a good one.
And now when I sing it, I could have no tours, no shows, no festivals, never have to play for an audience again. All I need is his response to when I play Daddy Man, because he goes absolutely friggin' wild.
Well, you've heard this probably, and it might sound like a cliche. Cherish it. Because I was just telling this story the other day to somebody on the show that when with my son, I would sing songs to my son every night or every other night. My wife and I would trade off. And that time has passed. But it hasn't for my daughter. My daughter still, I take a guitar up there and we go through a bunch of Dylan and Silver Jews and whatever. I just play whatever I can think of, and she loves it. And I know, though, that it's not going to last much longer. And I'm trying to value the fact that I sing. And by the same token, sometimes she's grumpy and she'll say some phrase at nighttime. I'll turn that into a song.
Right. But like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's going to end? Like, what do you mean?
I don't sing to my son anymore.
Right.
I sing to my daughter still, but I used to sing to my son, like I say, at least every other night. And I don't. He's outgrown it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, I read to my daughter every other night too. And I don't do that with my son as much. He wants to, he doesn't like to read that much. They don't read a lot, I find.
Hey, don't worry. No one does.
I know it's a problem.
Everyone on Earth has stopped reading.
I might sound old, but I still think it's a problem. We're reading some stuff together, like novels and stuff, but no, he wants to read a little bit by himself, and or I got him a telephone, so he listens to Kendrick Lamar and JID and all these people, and I got to be like, what are you learning from that? I'm totally a dad, but he'll talk to me about stuff, and I got him into some of that stuff. Currently obsessed with Jay-Z, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. But yeah, I'm saying they age out. They age out of that a little bit of intimacy and cuddle time.
Do they still think you're cool?
I mean, how am I to say yes? I will say yes. My son, if he didn't, wouldn't be like, check out this, Papa, GID's dropping a new album. I'm like, really? Okay, what's going on? He's like, I heard about it on TikTok. So-and-so, this is happening. And Travis Scott did this. And I'm like, he's just full on hip-hop right now. But when we grew up and the music he heard in the car was mostly Ramones, Replacements, rock stuff, and that's what we bonded over. And now he wants to bond with me by also asserting how much he knows about hip hop culture. So I'll play him something from the Black Album or whatever, the Blueprint, and he's got it all memorized now. He's got it's bonkers.
That's amazing.
He'll spit the songs at me, and I'm like, "Don't say that word in front of your mother."
There's one thing you've got to know.
Yeah, he became obsessed with whatchamacallit, Takeover. And I was like, have you heard, by the way, for those listening, Takeover is a Jay-Z song, and within it he's dissing Mobb Deep and Nas. And I was like, you ever heard Ether?
Oh, yeah, right?
So we're driving home from basketball practice, and by the way, and I played Ether, and I was like, oh, I should not have played this 12-year-old Ether. But when I was 12, Two Live Crew. Like, imagine, all that stuff, you just wanted to find the illicit, dirty stuff or the questionable language stuff. So that's what I got now. I got a kid who's like listening to this stuff and asking me questions about it, which I never had with my parents. They didn't want to talk about the music. I think I am a bit cool. I don't know that I am.
I think
I'm trying to be cool, and what do you think of that? Like, when you hear that lyric, what does that mean when he says a questionable term? What do you think that means? And he'll explain, and I'm actually more scared that he does know.
Yes.
You know what that derogatory term means for a woman? Like, what does that mean?
And, even Jay-Z would tell you some of the stuff, like, he's like, damn, like, I wish I didn't say that. Yeah. Like, particularly, like, Big Pimpin', he's kind of disowned that song. Absolutely, yeah. So I think the best song ever. It's so good. It's amazing.
The best sample and the best beat, rather, and it is... I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm saying this goes by quick. Because also with technology, I have wallpaper that rotates like screensavers. And oh my God, there's my kid when he was 4. Now he's rapping Kendrick at me. Loves like he has every Kendrick Lamar album poster in his room. And he loves them. And they love him. And him and his friends bond over it. And then the other day, he went to a band practice.
Oh, that's
and he's
fire.
like, do I own a guitar? I'm like, yes, you own a guitar. I got you one when you were a kid. How does it work? And I showed him a little bit. Went to a jam with his friends. Sent me videos. It was a song. I was like, what is happening so quickly? Anyway, I'm sorry, Rollie.
No,
as one dad to another. You're in for a real, no pun intended, given the album we're here to discuss. You're in for a roller coaster, and you're gonna love it. And I know you. I know you have deep love for the things you love. You are very passionate about. You're gonna be great. I can't wait.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like my son, he's already changed so much in such a short amount of time. Like when he was a newborn, early, he was like inert. Like he didn't do anything. And he didn't respond to things in the same way like that he does now. And it's so exciting now that he, like when we're hanging out and playing, like he's just like giggling and laughing, and he like lights up when he sees me. Like, yeah, being a parent. See, that's the stuff. If they weren't so cute, it would be trouble for the human race.
What do you mean? Everyone would just want a baby all the time?
Well, no, if they were not cute, because it's like the hardest thing ever.
Yes.
Parenting.
Yes. It is. And since we're having a confessional about parenting, you talked about it. They go from an inert being that you took care of and take care of all the time to like, they suddenly have their own thing and they suddenly have their own interests and their own agency. Really. My son has a house key. Like he's got a telephone now. Like it's changing. And I am, because of what I've said to you already, recognizing how fast things happen, I have had some deeply emotional moments of late, just imagining them not living here anymore. These are they're my kids, but they're my friends. And if that makes sense. I'm like their boss friend.
Yeah.
You got to do that. Get the garbage, do this. But what's going on? Let's talk about music. Let's watch movies together. They're my friends. And so watching him in particular, my daughter's still she's 9. So she's so smart and funny. My daughter's the funniest person I've ever met. She just makes me laugh, makes my son nuts. makes my son competitive. He's just like, why is she so... I'm like, I don't know. She's just fucking funny. Like, she's funny. She doesn't even know she's funny, but she's funny. So she makes me laugh. But yeah, I'm already... They're 12 and 9. I got 6, 7 years in conventional terms as to when they might, or when he might leave the house and go do stuff. I'm getting overly emotional and sentimental about something that is totally normal, but I'm already preparing to miss them. That's how fucked up and fast everything's happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you're already preparing to be an empty nester.
Yeah. I don't know what it means, but I love them, and I love having them around, even when they drive you crazy. It's really fun. So I interrupt this episode of my own show for a brief thank you for hearing my call to support me and my work on Patreon. We have seen a lot of growth in Patreon support over the last little while, which is amazing because that's my primary source of income these days. And I love doing this job that I invented for myself a whole lot. Creative Control is a listener-supported podcast. Do podcasters receive any streaming royalties from podcast platforms? No, not any. Does podcast advertising pay the bills? Not for a show at this scale, no. Do all podcasters get paid by companies for their work like some celebrities do? No, most of us do not. We do this work to support our communities and because we love it. So what's the most reliable source of income for podcasters like me? Crowdfunding platforms like Patreon. So if you love Creative Control with Vish Khanna and want to see it continue, please see the notes in this episode. Click on the link that takes you to my Patreon and its different donation tiers with various incentives and benefits, and support me and my work today. Thank you again so much. You know, you talked about your neighbor who had the conspiratorial notion about their car.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about it, I thought of your new song, Shadow Banned.
Yeah.
Because for those who haven't heard it, you wonder in the song if you have been, in fact, shadow banned by the various internet companies. This album of yours is amazing, and it's very much about the internet. Is that a fair assessment to get us going on the record?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all about the internet. I think it's an album that is more focused on one subject, I think, than anything else I've done.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about what prompted this exactly? I mean, we're all kind of going through it, and we use this thing. Let me just say this. When Press Eject comes on, which is ostensibly the first... Well, it's really... I got to talk to you about this, too. You got a weird... This is a weird record. You got people on it that are just coming in and singing a little bit, and then you're on it, and then the people come back sometimes. It's interesting. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Press Eject is, I guess, technically the second song on the album. And I was thinking about it today, and I thought that you sounded like a cyborg angry at its creator. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, that's interesting that you picked up on that, because I feel like I wanted the first half of the album to be like embracing the machine, and slowly as the album goes on, it's more organic and it's more techno revolt. It's against the machine. So that's very astute observation, because even with the vocal production, I wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to be like a living machine.
Which we all are, with our phones, walking around as these... I mean, I've said this before, and sometimes I think it sounds a bit trite, but we are ostensibly cyborgs. Would you agree? Like, we are... Yeah?
We absolutely are, and we're going to be even more so as time goes on. Like, have you seen the Apple, those goggles?
Yeah.
You know, it eventually is going to be just chips in your head. Like, I know it's anything you see in a movie that seemed like it was cliche and it was just too weird, it's going to come. And we're really on the cusp of all that. And that's really what the album is about. It's about reckoning with these changes in technology and how they affect us in our everyday lives, and how it's become more pervasive. I feel like in just the last few years, it feels like these technological shifts are happening faster and they're more pronounced.
So you have made records about parallel worlds before, and the internet, I think, was kind of part of that narrative. But that was really, I think, well, actually, I'll ask you, what's the difference between that notion of a parallel world and what we're talking about now as these beings that coexist with technology and we are ostensibly part of that technology now? Can you talk about what the notion of a parallel world in IRL and URL, I guess, is maybe the distinction?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like parallel world, when the way I was talking about it there was like how different people experience the world and how it can feel like it's a totally different universe if you're a wealthy white person or you're just an average black guy walking down the same street. So that was my main meaning of parallel world. My connection to technology on the album, there are some moments like On Me with the surveillance and Connect, I think is a really good connection between the two albums. But it was very social and it was really about individuals and how we interact with each other more so. Whereas like this album is really about the impact that tech companies and tech bros and the things that are created that aren't even terrestrial, that are just an app or just a program or just a thing that's in your phone, that can have a real world impact. And that's really just what I'm talking about. I find that really fascinating. Like things like in Toronto, they tried to do the Google Sidewalk Labs, right? And it was going to be this neighborhood that was all totally integrated Google future neighborhood. And it didn't end up happening, thankfully, I think. But I can't help but think about this whenever I'm in the States. And that's really what kind of started me on this path. Was I was in LA for a few weeks in 2022. And that's where I started a lot of the demos for these tracks and like working with different people there, Canadians in LA. And I just noticed how everything was so optimized. And it was, I always feel like Canada, we're always a little bit behind what they have in the States. Like they always have like different burgers at Burger King and stuff. They've got like the crazier junk food. They've got all this poison that we can't get. And I just found like when I go to the coffee shop, it would be like there'd be no one serving me. It was just all automated. And then it was so fast. And it would like the drinks would be like there's bee pollen and CBD oil in my coffee or whatever. And and it was just like, it was like the Jetsons, literally, right? Yeah. So I just started thinking about that and how it felt. And that was really what I was tapping into, is like having so many things that are totally optimized for me, the consumer, and how does that make me feel? And it there's this tinge of excitement at being like, oh wow, it's so cutting edge, and I got the coffee so fast, it was insane. But then there's this other thought of being like, well, okay, so they optimize that. Are they going to optimize every aspect of our lives to the point where we're optimized out of it?
Yeah, I think some of what you're talking about now is reflected in the song My Computer. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like that's a song. I'm really proud of that one. That's a song I made with Machine Drum. We did that in LA. And yeah, it's definitely sometimes it actually kind of reminds me of that Billy Joel we didn't start the fire.
We didn't start the fire. Yeah. It's just a bunch of seemingly random, disconnected phrases that are all part under the same umbrella. In the Billy Joel example, like this is all stuff we've experienced as humans in history. In My Computer, for those who haven't heard the song yet, there's just a bunch of like tech terminology. It's like a litany of all like, what are the App Store, Trojan Horse, Trapdoor, Flash Drive, Timeline, Patch Bay, like every day online, machine learning, Dream Merchant. It does, you're right. It has that same rhythm of just stock taking of a shared experience. But it also begins with some tape, I think. Yeah. I don't know. Can you tell us? There's a quote here, and I'll read it and ask you where it comes from. So I always saw Rollie on the computer. He was always on the computer. Whose voice is that?
So that's my uncle, Brett Miles. Yeah. I had to put that in there. He passed away.
My condolences again. I'm so sorry, Rollie. As you know, I interacted with Uncle Brett a couple of times, actually. And very lovely guy. So I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, no, he was amazing. And
Yeah.
I had to give him a shout out and like make him a little timeless, put him on a record. He was definitely the most influential and supportive person in my life when it comes to making music. Like, I don't know if I ever would have really done it if it weren't for his encouragement. So,
and a musician in his own right as well. For those who don't know, as I recall, I'm riffing here. Tell me if I'm wrong, Rollie. Didn't he perform with James Brown?
He did,
like
yeah. He was on sessions with Mick Jagger. Like he lived in New York for many years, and he was just like so interesting, and he's just such a open-hearted person. And I really try to be like him, because he had this like childlike joy about music. Yeah. Like, especially even about my music. Like, I would send him tracks that hadn't come out yet, and he would just be like, "Man, that's crazy!" Like, and he'd be so excited. And it's just amazing to have somebody in your life, in your family, who just is your biggest cheerleader like that. So yeah, I definitely miss him. You know, I see there's things that happen in the world. Like, I'll always think of him. Like the Andre 3000 album. God, I wish he could have heard that. He would have loved that.
Yeah, I'm so sad that he's not around, because in a weird way, he's one of the few people I know and I knew in Edmonton. I just never got a chance to see him because of the pandemic and our own schedules and whatnot. But so I'm happy that he's on the album that you have. It's amazing how much of your family speaking is documented, because your father was in radio. What was the context for that quote from Uncle Brett?
So that was actually from a CKUA thing about me. It was just like a retrospective of my career, and where
wait a minute, did I help produce that?
I think you did, actually. Yeah, you were involved with making this.
I forgot about that.
Grant was involved as
Grant
well.
Stovall. Yeah.
And he interviewed my mom and Brett. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's an interesting quote, and it brings to mind the fact, earlier I suggested on Press Eject you sounded like a cyborg, as you are now, Rollie, Cadence Weapon. But if I think about your trajectory and your relationship with technology, you were a writer, a music journalist. I was just telling this sort of anecdote to the rap duo from Chicago, Angry Black Men. They have a very like noisy industrial music sort of sound on their latest album. And I said, it kind of reminds me of early Cadence Weapon in particular. And they're like, "Oh, we don't know who that." And I sent them a link to Breaking Kayfabe in particular. And I don't know if I mischaracterized it, Rollie. You tell me. I was like, yeah, he kind of was just making shit up as he went along on relatively shitty gear, and that's kind of why it sounds amazing, but it also sounds kind of fucked up. And as I recall from reading your book, Bedroom Rapper, and our conversations over the years, you were kind of just making it up with whatever technology you had on the computer, and the computers would crash and you'd lose everything. I remember you told a story when we did the book event about your mother's ex-boyfriend ruined it.
Yeah.
Destroyed the computer because he was a gamer or something like that.
Yeah.
You have a long-term relationship with computer technology, and I know you've heard me gush about this before. I think you're often ahead of the curve with it.
Yeah.
You're trying things before everyone else is trying them. So this album about how I don't know, problematic, I guess, computer technology is, you are the cyborg. If anyone is patient zero from being raised by a computer, like if I can think of anyone, is it safe to say it's you?
Yeah, no, that's totally true. I'm very indebted to technology. I never made music on hardware. It was all computer.
Yeah.
I never used gear. It was like the cheapest pirated programs, and just kind of like feeling out my process just in real time. That's what you're hearing on that album. And I think that's what really connects with people, is there's a certain immediacy and this excitement of discovery, and this feeling of like I'm figuring it out along with the listener. Yeah, and it was definitely super industrial, and that was just kind of how I was feeling. I was like, I just wanted to fuck shit up, and But yeah, to answer your question, I think that's interesting. I wouldn't say that the album is totally anti-technology. I think really what I'm trying to say is use technology, don't let it use you.
Yes. And sorry, that's an important point.
It's about just having a more responsible, more thoughtful relationship to the technology we use, and just really thinking about what we're doing, because we're doing it every day, right? And it's just fully integrated into our lives.
But what does it mean for someone like I earlier? I keep saying that you sound on the first half of the record, you sound resentful of the very technology that is responsible for your existence.
Yeah.
And on a very real level, your career is thanks to the very technology, partially thanks to the very technology that you're now feeling comfortable criticizing. What is the tension there for you? Of like you do sound like someone who's like, I don't hate this. I just think it could be better than it is. Is that the general vibe?
Yeah, no, it's like, I don't hate it. I love it, because I wouldn't be talking about it. I wouldn't make a whole album about it if I wasn't enthusiastic about its potential, right? But the actual application of it, I think, is not what I would prefer. So I think really what I'm saying, the technology that's being used today is so connected to profit. And it's so connected to capitalism, and it's so designed to extract as much from us as individuals as possible, as quickly as possible. Whereas what I'm really hearkening back to on this record is early internet. Like when I was first starting out, and it was possible to have a blog that, A-Track was reading, and he'd hit me up and ask me for an MP3, or like different magazines would reach out to me just based on something I wrote on like some random website. Like the reach that we had was not as exponential as it is today with like stuff like Spotify and TikTok, and how it's scalable in a way that wasn't possible back then. But you actually could reach the most influential people in music directly in a way that you can't really today. Right. And I guess I just think I'm a little nostalgic for the early internet, of going on a message board and just nerding out with some people who love music, and there's no profit method involved. Like back then it was really hard to buy anything online. Like early 2000s, you'd have to it was time consuming. Like it was like mail order. Like you'd have to like fill out all this credit card information, and it was like there was a lot of friction there. Yeah. But now that friction's been removed, and that's really what I'm talking about a lot on these songs. Like Exceptional, that song is really about the feeling of pressing like buy it now. That feeling you get when you're like I'm buying this, and that kind of endorphin rush that you get. And I want it to kind of be a musical representation of that. And it's exciting, and it's something that I do it, like I'm really into online auctions right now.
Oh, really? Why?
That's like my favorite thing. Like, cause I've been doing this vintage clothing business in like the last 6 months or something. It's called Searcher Vintage, and check it out. It's on Instagram. Like there was a story about it in the Toronto Star.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've just been sourcing vintage clothes and curating it and selling it at different pop-up events that we've been putting on. So
interesting. So many musicians I know are into this. Spencer Burton and the Daniel Romano camp, I think for a while, were dealing with, I don't know if they still are as much. I just don't see as much about it. I think Spencer still is, but like that's an interesting business model for musicians, is to sell fashion. How you say it's going well? It's
been amazing. Yeah, it's been really exciting, and I feel like it really is a prescriptive to the kind of supercharged capitalism of a lot of the stuff on the internet right now. Like I feel like I'm really going through piles and piles of clothes in all these weird different places, including online auctions, and coming through, curating it, and giving somebody the opportunity to like buy something that's like the greatest shirt they've ever seen or something, like it's anti H&M Shein Zara. Like it's something that is sustainable. It's like 100% cotton, 100% leather, like high quality products.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And it's kind of what I try to do with music as well. Like it's I don't think I make music that's really like streaming oriented, you know.
You make albums?
I make albums. Yeah.
You
I make albums
like,
that I make an album every 3 years, 2 years, whatever. And I put everything into it, and I try to make things that stand up to multiple listens and can be interpreted in multiple different ways. And rather than what they want you to do, which is make, 5 albums a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't happen to know if my Nirvana t-shirts are still worth as much as they were a few years ago, would you?
I would. Yeah, they're probably worth more than you'd even imagine, actually.
I got my dad to ship me some because Spencer, who I was alluding to earlier, Spencer Burton, and I had a chat. I kept getting these DMs, wild DMs. I'd post about a shirt just randomly, and then people, I'll give you $1,000. I'm like, $1,000?
They literally are worth thousands depending on the shirt. Yeah.
I've had them valued. I just, you know what? Now that I'm unemployed, I should probably look into this. I was like, I'm kind of sentimental. I don't want to give up my incesticide shirt and my in utero shirt. And then I go online but people are also like, be careful. Sometimes these people are scammers. They'll say they'll give you $1,000 and they'll send it to you and then they'll take it back. I'm like, how do they take it back? It's a whole world I didn't know about that you can take money back.
Yeah. You just got to be careful, but it's
okay. I might have to hit you up on this, for more answers in a bit. You were talking about some of your songs here. I want to go to Blue Screen.
Yeah.
This maybe takes us back to the parallel world notion that I'm flirting with here. The first lines are, did it really happen? Is it just online? So that is that connection I was trying to draw between real life and online life and your relationship with both. How would you characterize what that song is kind of about?
Yeah, so when I say that line, is definitely like there's been experiences in life where something will be going viral on Twitter or something, and I'll be like, wow, this is the biggest news. Oh, can you believe this? And I'll go talk to my wife about it, and she has no idea about it.
And your wife is a journalist, right? She's
a journalist, yeah, but it's like she has a really healthy relationship with social media where she only uses it for work. So she isn't, she'll not be plugged into the vagaries of online discourse.
Yeah, I'm very extremely online, and sometimes it's great because being extremely online, I think, means you are aware of things that other people eventually hear about. But then, if you really think about it, like, why do I care about this?
Well, that's the question. Why do you care? Like it's and also the thing is what I'm saying is basically it's not real. Like it is connected to reality. It is real people talking about a thing that maybe originated in the real world, but the actual conversation that we think is this massive thing because it's in the social media platform that we like to use is actually usually totally insignificant and not important at all. So that's just kind of what I'm talking about.
Among the things that motivated Elon Musk to take over Twitter is, I think there's all sorts of terrible motivations, but there's a general sense among people like him that we were all having our snobby party without him. And it was very exclusive and we were cool and he wanted to be cool. There's a couple of lines that come to mind based on what you were just saying from your song Lexicon.
Yes.
You type you the type to comment first. The worst. That's fucking funny. Later on, by the way, I feel like you're really feeling yourself. Didn't write your verse, don't converse with me. Your whole squad full of Nepo babies. Where's the nursery? Makes me laugh every time. So that's a really good one. Sorry to embarrass you with lyrical specificity.
You couldn't embarrass me because I wrote it. I love it.
It's great. So you the type to comment first, the worst. That is about internet entitlement because that used to be a thing. And that I worry about myself. Am I still so online because I have FOMO? I have a fear of missing out. That's the one side of it. Second is, do I want to feel a little superior because I know some bullshit that someone else. I'm not trying to make this a psychoanalysis of me, but there's a behavioral pattern among Twitterers in particular of like, we know what we're talking about. That's the rash of people nebulously tweeting something, and then if you look in the comments, if you dare go into the replies, people are much more brazen now of saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Can someone explain this? And nowadays, someone will. But there is this little bit of insularity to it, too. Are you getting at that a little bit in this song?
Yeah, I mean, in that song, I'm talking about this idea of so much of what we consume in the Western world is dictated by just a few people in New York and LA. And I find that kind of funny. It's like people will do anything if somebody from New York writes about it. Like they'll be like, this is the new trend. Like we're drinking like margarine martinis and it's the coolest thing. And they talk about it in Vulture and New York Magazine or something. And suddenly Toronto will be like, we've got a margarine margarita bar or whatever, you know, like they'll do it.
Yeah.
I think that's also just speaking to how powerful these tools are in influencing people. And that, I think, is really the reason why somebody would like Elon would want to buy Twitter is you have something that was being used for communicating during wars and that had real organizing power during, you know, Black Lives Matter. Like it is a very powerful tool. And he saw that and he was like, yo, I can be the most important person on this site. That's priceless for somebody with an ego.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, throughout the record, at least in the first half and maybe the second half as well, you're trying to, getting back to what you were saying about how we can be using these spaces better. You often in this record kind of assert the fact that like we as users of these platforms are the ones making the platforms work. I mean, that is a common thing among us as people who make things and just give them to these companies. Like this podcast everyone's listening to, I'm not paid by Apple, and all of the places it goes, I hit a button scheduling this episode, and then it just goes to all these mega corporations. And if people like me didn't do that, they'd have nothing. They'd have very little. They'd do very little original content.
Yes.
So, and there's a few instances on this record where you seem to talk about that. Like, this is your audience. Mm. Like, yes, you're on Instagram. Yes, you're on Twitter, if you still are. Yes, you're using the things, but you should have you as the person curating the experience for your followers should probably have more power and more remuneration, I think, than you do. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's very frustrating, and it feels like it's by design by these tech companies. They come in, they want to disrupt. That's what they always say. They want to disrupt every industry. And what does disrupting mean? It means a lot of creative people lose their jobs. It means that the means of production is taken out of our hands, and it means someone else suddenly has a larger piece of the pie than we do, and we had no choice in the matter, right? So I guess what I'm trying to do with this record is just kind of remind people of their agency and the fact that we have so much more power than we realize sometimes, because you get stuck in this loop of being like, oh man, I gotta post more on social media. Like I gotta post on Instagram more. I gotta do more TikToks. I gotta dance for the machine. Like I gotta do this to be successful. And to a certain extent, that's true. But you could also just not do any of it. You could cultivate just something in the real world, and you'd probably be significantly happier. I know I usually am when I disengage from all these sites. I'm way happier. I feel like more in tune with reality. I feel less anxious because once again, these apps are designed to make us feel like this. And especially as artists, it's so frustrating because these tech companies, it's like the first order business. They're like, okay, first thing we're going to do, we're going to pit all of the artists against each other. We're going to make them feel like, okay, if you don't have X amount of monthly listeners, you might as well not be making music and you should retire if you don't put out 4 albums a year. It's just, it's just weird that people will buy into an industry that is creative and then have no fucking ideas and no creativity of their own.
But it's more nefarious than just these so there's a song on your record that caught my ear in particular. It's called Bots. And I'm amazed when I'm aware of what this... sorry, do you want to talk about bot farms and how they juice and game the internet?
Yeah, for sure. Like, if you look at some of the biggest artists in the world, a lot of the streams are likely fraudulent, just totally made by... You could go to Malaysia and hire some company, which is a guy with a bunch of plugs and iPhones connected to them with different Spotify accounts, playing a bunch of your song over and over and over again to seem like you have millions of plays. Yeah. And so that is like a thing. You can hire different companies doing that. Right.
So there's two things going on here. There's the very existence. Yes. The very existence of this fraudulent thing sucks. But the people who use them, because I will say this, and I'll try to be as delicate as I can. As someone who makes a podcast, I occasionally will, not occasionally, I'll be honest with you, quite frequently after I put out an episode, I will go to the Apple podcast chart. And without fail, the top 2 or 3 are always the same Canadian music interview podcast or conversation podcast. I know no one talking about those podcasts. And in some cases, one of them has shown up on the chart multiple times. Same show. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, that's a glitch maybe. But then I think about it more. I 100% think that this guy and this show are paying for bots. But the average person will just be like, that's the best show in Canada. That's it. And then you'll also see this, what Rollie's talking about, Twitter followers, social media followers. It's all fake. So this is, a lot of it is. If people have the means to pay to inflate their numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you can also go, there's sites that will go through your different, you can enter Elon Musk's followers and it tells you what percentage are fake.
Yes.
Like there's a way that you can just always find that out. I guess the reason why I wanted to write this song too, there was 2 reasons. I originally wrote it when I wasn't, my album wasn't nominated for the Junos last year. I've never been nominated for a Juno ever. And
wait, your Polaris Music Prize winning album wasn't nominated for a Juno?
Yeah, that one. And I think I wrote it out of the frustration of that because I was looking at maybe some of the nominees and I was like, to be honest, who the fuck are these people? Like, I've never seen nor heard of them or seen anybody talk about some of the people, so and it's you do a little research and you see the followers, you look and it's like all the usernames have underscores and dashes and numbers in them and dots and it's like not real people, obviously. But then I was also thinking, just like on a larger scale, just technology wise, if you go on Twitter, all these blue checks, they are fake accounts. So many of them are, where they're just responding by reiterating what the original post said. That one annoys me so much. Or like just being like, great content, or like, yes, it's good, or yes, it's like, oh, that's bad. Like it's we've gotten to a point now where online discourse doesn't even involve a person talking to another person. It's just a bunch of robots talking to each other. Again,
I characterized your narrative voice in a couple instances on this album as a cyborg, and I think now we're talking about robots, not a cyborg. I guess where I'm coming from...
There's good and bad robots, man. You could either be C-3PO or you could be HAL.
Right. The whole thing, for some of us, is predicated on phoniness. I mean, the whole internet experience.
Yeah.
And you can either buy in. I was just in a weird meeting before you and I started talking with some people at a industry event in Canada. And they totally were like, we just love what you're doing. It's so great. Now here's our idea. And I said, no, I would never do that. Here's our idea for what we want to do with you on the show. I'm like, no. Like, clearly never having heard the show, a second of it. I was walking with someone in Edmonton recently, and like, oh, your show's so great. I love it. I love it. I'm like, I was listening to it the other day. I was like, oh yeah, who was on? I don't remember. You don't remember? It's one guest. Like, why are people lying so brazenly about everything? Is it the internet's fault?
I mean, the internet, it definitely influences. Well, I think the problem actually is people don't properly listen to things. Reading comprehension is way down. Understanding the news is way down. People don't trust the news either. So they're just like, I'll do my own research. And then their own research is some bot, like fake account on Twitter. Yeah, we're at it in a really like dark time for everything. But I don't know. I still feel kind of optimistic. I'm generally an optimistic person, and I feel like the whole point of this is just to really let people know the way I see things and how we can fight back. Like, I think we need to get back into the idea of just starting our own enterprises, the way that you have your own podcast and people, I have my newsletter, which I really enjoy doing. And it's the only thing online where I can actually directly connect with my audience without having to pay for ads or anything.
Yeah, and you've been, because you're so talented and I think wise, I think your work has been, your non-music work, I suppose. Sorry, how can I put this? Your writing has really been resonating with people, and you'll write a thing in your newsletter about the nefarious aspect of merch fees, that venues are stealing money ostensibly from artists by taking large cuts of their merch fees. And that'll turn into a little movement. Like you will have affected change by articulating what you think, and it prompts other people to be like, yeah, what the hell are we doing? Why are they taking so much of our money? They're already getting the bar money. What do they need this money from us for? And so, I mean, for what it's worth, unless you want to say more about what's the status of that sort of project, if you will? Any inroads into making it more egalitarian? Oh, yeah, no, it was, the My Merch campaign. Yeah, it went really well. It was a thing where I was going to different venues and the people running the venue would come up to me and be like, thank you for doing that. That's great. We never took money from people's merch sales. Like everyone wanted me to know personally. They wanted to be the good guy. And
that they were the good guy. Yeah. But yeah, we had, dozens and dozens, up to like over 100, I think, at this point. Venues and festivals say that they weren't going to take merch money. They weren't going to take a merch cut. And I think, one of the most recent things was when Live Nation went and they said they weren't going to take a merch cut from, over like 80 of their venues. Yeah. That was last year. I don't know if they continued the program. There was no information about that, but, we'll continue applying the pressure. Shout out to UMA, the other group that I'm doing it with. So. Right.
Yeah. That's what does that stand for?
United Musicians and Allied Workers.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew there was a name for that. It's amazing how much expressing ourselves because it's, again, back to my phoniness thing. Yes, you and people like you and people like me will express our rage at something, and the people in power will start to actually hear us and do something about it. But the phoniness is, I think they're mostly doing it for PR reasons. It makes them look bad. They get shamed into doing it, which is maybe not the worst thing in the world. That's probably part of the point, right? Like, well, how dare you do this? And they're like, yeah, right, shit. We didn't think anyone would find out we were doing that. We're going to stop. And then they stop, But I just want to say it's... kudos to you and everyone who's actually speaking out and doing things. I'm always impressed with your ability to use your platforms to try to affect positive change. And I would say in the last few years, it's really working out. I think you're accomplishing a lot, if I might say. Do you feel that?
Thank you. Yeah, no, it actually has felt really good. It feels like we're making some change. I mean, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. And to do what I really want to do, I need more resources and I need more institutional support. It's very challenging to do this kind of thing with not a lot of help from the industry. So I don't know. We're still working on it. I mean, there's other things like I really want there just to be a stronger union in Canadian music where if you get enough of us together and we actually have, benefits, and we can really band together and get behind one union or something, then it's like, okay, let's go to the Spotify building and let's protest, or like, let's do this. And it's complicated. I know it's not, some of the things that you can do in America, you can't do here. And like, there's a lot of...
and for every institution that does hear you and tries to correct things, a company like Spotify will probably just be indifferent, from the stories I've heard.
Well, or they'll just like, not boost any of your music or anything,
or take your music off.
Yeah, which that's like the risk I take all the time when I do this kind of stuff, is that I'm the rabble rouser, so I get the stick.
So before we wrap up here, I haven't actually asked you about the sound so much of this album. I've talked about your voice. I've talked about the lyrical tone. You've got these songs that on some level remind me of James Cameron's Terminator 2. How do you contemplate your soundscape for it? You've worked with a few different people here. What was your mindset going into, like, what's going to complement these ideas and how can I get these sounds?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to make some music that was really colorful on this album. I wanted to make really vibrant, kind of electrical feeling stuff. Like when I would meet with people to go record, which was nice. This album I got to record in person, like versus Parallel World was all virtual. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was nice to just like link up with people, and I would, tell them the concept of the album that I had in mind and some of the themes, and we'd play things for each other. And like, some of the touchstones that I kept coming back to were some like Detroit techno stuff, where there was like a lot of storytelling, stuff like Drexia, and DJ Bone and things like that, where there was like a lot of narrative involved. But it was electronic music, but it was like black electronic music, and stuff like PC music and Sophie and kind of hyperpop stuff, 100 Gex. Like I think that music sounds like very contemporary, and it's very of the moment in a computerized world. It's a particular kind of slick, shiny sound that I was kind of going for.
Yeah. As I ponder this record and I think about your meditation on technology and advancements, like the internet to me has always been futuristic. Like it's the promise of information and connection, but it's happening now. It's always this present day futuristic thing. And I think it maybe has desensitized us to sort of temporal fluidity or something. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like we were always living in the future, but it never feels as glamorous as we thought it was going to be, or as exciting as we wanted it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. But for me, I actually think the internet is really natural, and this technology, it is man-made, right? It's coming from us, and it's coming from the natural world in a way. It's coming from like the chips that are dug out of these mines and stuff. Like it's all part of Earth to me. I feel like the internet is maybe it's like the closest thing to like God that we have.
Really?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like if you think about, you go into Google and you just ask it anything,
right?
And you can find anything, and it has access to everything, and it connects us all.
That's true. Whenever I go on Google, I actually type out, "Dear Google, are you there? It's me, Beach." That's what I write. No, but you're right. It is pretty magical that you can ask it anything and it might have an answer. Meanwhile, like as Rollie and I are speaking, everyone, ChatGPT had a nervous breakdown this week and stopped working and spat out gibberish.
Yeah.
And like the limits, the inherent limit. Yeah, that's how the inherent limitations are there. Did you see the thing, by the way? There's a line on your song Exceptional that I want to ask you about real quick. You say, I got bags, I got tracks. Roll with Jacques, not Jack. Did you see the thing that just happened as we're speaking, like last week, I think it was, that somebody on the Twitter grabbed a screenshot, I believe, of Jacques with Azealia Banks. Did you see this? Do you know
yeah. It's gone viral multiple times. This screenshot from the video because he's in the video.
Yes,
he was in the Azealia Banks 212 video.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's Jacques, and the premise of the tweet or whatever was that people think he's Jack Antonoff.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this has just happened.
Well, that's crazy. Yeah.
So your song, I'm like, wait a minute, Rollie's from the future. Roll with Jacques, because you're referring to Jack Antonoff, right?
No, I was thinking of the Twitter Jack.
Oh, God, okay.
Right? Yeah, it wasn't that
sorry.
Jack. But that's just sometimes I just get crazy, like it's a gift and a curse, baby.
Okay. I wasn't, because you're talking about this ain't rock, this is rap. Yeah. And I was like, oh, he must be. I mean, no, I know people are. You make
me sound even more fired because that was not my intention. This ain't rock, this is rap. That was like some. I felt like it was something that an old school rapper would say, and I just like really wanted to. It's like when you listen to like hip hop from the 80s and stuff. It'll be like, no, this ain't Aerosmith. You know, yes. And I was just, it was kind of a hip hop thing in a way. Like that's another thing too that like I kind of forgot that I did, but I'm really referencing some very early hip hop with some of these songs, like the stuff that's like punk rock rap, stuff that's like very electronic and it's like fast and it's like rapping. I really wanted to like have some tracks that were like that, or like there's this song called Clarence's Club. And it's by one of the guys from Drexciya, and he's rapping on it, and he's rapping over this like super fast techno. And that was like my kind of guiding principle, was like I wanted to like feel like I'm some random guy in Detroit on rapping through the headphones over like a techno beat.
Well, I mean, it does have, I think of Bots as having that kind of old school vibe too, even though the subject matter is very much about now. To be honest with you, because I'm such a Beastie Boys fan, the phrasing of fuck a gatekeeper, knock his ass out. It kind of, I was like, I can hear Yauk saying that. Like I could hear somebody in Beastie Boys saying that. And that's just my ear and my slant. So anyway, it's a wonderful record. Again, it's one of your most challenging ones in some ways, I think sonically. And where you see optimism, I hear a little bit of lyrically, it seems angry, even though you're saying it's optimistic. So I appreciate your perspective on it. I'm going to re-listen to it and think about it some more, because I think you're right. It's when you want to start a revolution, you have to have a bit of rage. Yeah. But you're ultimately hoping to get to a good place at the end of it. Yeah, no, it's a revolution, and I want to take people with me. You know, and it's I think that's very positive. Yeah, absolutely. So when did you wrap up this record? When did you finish making it? When I finished this, time doesn't exist anymore. So it's really hard to tell, but I think I delivered it last summer, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it was done in last summer. Yeah, and summer 2023. Yeah, but then I got married and we had a baby and moved to Hamilton, like all this stuff happened, so yeah. I only ask because I wonder if you've been writing or working on stuff since. No, I actually have no time to do anything ever since I had a kid. All we do is make up songs during tummy time. But you have been recording the tummy time song, so maybe that could be a record. Yeah, Daddy Man coming soon. You know, that's gonna be going crazy in 2025. I have been recording a little bit actually. I recorded a couple songs with Jeremy. From Junior Boys, so. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, we don't know for what purpose yet. No, we're just hanging. That's like we'll go to like an amazing random diner and then just make some tracks and stuff. And I don't know. Nice. I think it's pretty cool, some of the stuff we're doing. He's a really sweet guy. So if you see him and you don't mind, I don't mean to burden you with a hello. Feel free to say hello. Oh, I will. I mean, he had a kid as well. Oh, good. Great. Yeah. I haven't connected with him since maybe he was last on the show for the last record. So that's good to hear. Two dads. That's us. Two cool dads. Right? Two cool dads. Yeah. I wish I was there. I could probably get in on that. Yeah, maybe, for sure. You're in there. I might be in there. So then, if not new music at the moment, I see you've got some tour dates. What's sort of next for you?
Yeah, I mean, we got the tour days, the record's coming out. I'm writing another book. That's the other thing.
Yes, I think I saw an announcement about that. Congratulations.
That's right.
Great.
It's called Ways of Listening, and so it's just about music, and it's a prescriptive to listening in the streaming era. Just I guess everything I'm doing is always like trying to slow things down. It's like a deeper, slower experience. So that's kind of what it is. It's it's the opposite of everything that's happening.
Is there an ETA on that in terms of when we might get to read it?
Oh, that'll probably be next year. Yeah.
Okay. Good for you. That's great. Yeah. Always busy. That's awesome. If people want to learn more about you, where would you like to? I know this whole episode has been a screed against pointing people to these corporate entities, but if people want to keep tabs on your work and your comings and goings, where would you like to direct them?
I think the best thing is my newsletter. I have a Substack, cadenceweapon.substack.com, and I'm on everything right now. I mean, for now, maybe by the time this airs, I'll have disappeared, because that's something I've been thinking about, is pressing eject from everything and just not being on social media. But unfortunately, in my business, your social media presence appears to be more important than what you actually make musically. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'd be a good experiment to see if people go to your Bandcamp more if you're not always omnipresent on social media. Like maybe that, what is it? You're just longing for someone. You might create more longing if you're not always in everyone's face every day.
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's like why I don't release stuff so often. Like, I try and make it special when I put something out.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, I think, is what I was looking for there. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. Okay. By the way, and this is maybe a bit businessy, but are you on a new label as well, or a different label?
They actually just changed their name. Yeah, it's the same label. They're called Monarch now.
Monarch. Okay.
Yeah, that's how you.
What was it before?
It was E1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Monarch. I saw that and I was like, what is that? I don't know what that is, but okay, they got a new name. Okay, cool. Yeah. Sorry. If we can go out on a song from this wonderful record, which, as we're speaking, Rollie, it's not going to be out for a little bit, but by the time people hear this, coming up soon, is there a single or a song that you'd like for us to go out on? And if so, can you tell us why?
Let's do Exceptional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular reason why?
Well, Exceptional is probably my favorite song on the album. It's one of my favorite songs to perform. I feel like it's really indicative of the sound. I think it was actually one of the first songs we recorded, and I think it did help dictate the direction of the record. So I feel like it's very fitting.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. And this is Cadence Club, I guess, is what is said.
This
in
is
the song,
Cadence's Club, baby.
Cadence's Club. Yeah.
Check it out. ROLLERCOASTER, April 19th. It's going down.
Exceptional by Cadence Weapon. Rollie, always a pleasure. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you make time to talk to me every time you seem to have something, and anytime you want to talk. I'm happy to have you. I wish you and your family the best of luck in the future, and I hope we talk soon.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always so much fun.
Erratic and ecstatic. I got stacks, I got bands, I got bags, I got tracks. Roll with Jock, not Jack. This ain't rock, this is rap. Sound class, this is runway, not off the rack. Yeah, this is runway, no tarmac. Feel like Bone Thugs and DJ Bone collab. This a hardware jam, this ain't programmed. You can sign a book deal with my notes app. Yeah.
Exceptional, 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 exceptional.
Off the jump, my leap. No, it ain't that deep. My taste is not cheap. Do just what I please. Cop anything I see. Scrolling on my screen. Got everything that I need. Trailblazer Rashid. Change every time I roll. Change up all my flows. Like I change my clothes. In a different mode. Don't cut this off. I'm I might cut a rug. Get down till sun up. This is Cadence Club.
Exceptional. 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 Exceptional.
Exceptional new music by Cadence Weapon there. I hope you enjoyed that and our whole conversation there. Thank you once again to Rollie Pemberton for appearing. I think this is his 5th time on this show. I think so. And his 5th time is for the 858th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network, or is it the Monarch podcast network? Which is available wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com. A note that I just sent my monthly newsletter for the first time in a few months, sorry. And I told them maybe they should just consider joining my Patreon, because for $1 American a month now, you get access to a weekly newsletter, and I'm sticking to that. I've been doing it, and it's kind of fun. I tell people what's coming up on the show and kind of just what I've been up to, books I've read, things I've watched, and I'm enjoying it, actually. I worried it was going to be self-indulgent because I don't have a lot. I feel like I don't have a lot to say, and then for those of you who follow the show know I seem to have a lot to say. So I've been writing a little bit more, and it's been fun. Anyway, I'll get to the Patreon in a moment. I was going to say there's a hyperlinked text in the show notes that says follow Vish online. You can use that to follow me and engage with me on some of the evil social media things that Rollie and I were just talking about. Most importantly, I suppose, in the show notes, there's a link for the Patreon. Patreon.com/Creative Control is where you can go to make a flexible monthly donation to sustain this podcast. There are different tiers, tier amounts, and you get different benefits for each tier. As I say, starting at $1 a month, you get the blog posts that I put up there on the Patreon. $4 a month, early access to episodes, and those episodes are all ad and promo free. So these things you've been hearing in the middle of the show and at the top of the show, they're not there. They're all gone. You just get right to the interview and all that kind of stuff. So that starts at $4, $6 and more and higher. And as I say, at every tier you get the stuff. You know, the higher you go, the more you get all of the benefits. So if you sign up at $4, you don't get the $6 benefits. But if you sign up at $6, you get the $4 and the $1 benefits. I'm sure you know how tiers work. Anyway, bonus content, contests to win prizes, lots of stuff. Please consider supporting the show on Patreon if you can. It means the world to me right now. Also want to thank Alberta's Blackbird Music, great record store, bricks and mortar locations in Calgary and Edmonton, Alberta, and you can learn more about them and order records right from their website there, blackbird.ca. Also want to thank independent businesses like Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario for their in-kind support for this show. Jim Guthrie's a prince. You should go check out his music there at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you so much for listening to this episode with Rollie. Get the new Cadence Weapon album. It's great. Subscribe to this podcast if you can, or leave nice ratings for it and reviews. Also, that helps. And tell your friends about the show, too. It helps if you can spread the word. And otherwise, I gotta go. I will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.